very much for being interested in my topic. My name is Antonio Balderas, and I will talk to you about pronunciation. All right, 7 steps to teaching English pronunciation, the phonetic training technique. Well, right now I know that you all of you are teachers. Are all of you teachers? Are you teaching now? Okay. Well, here, let's imagine that we are in the classroom, because I want you to feel, what the students go through, when they are learning English. But mainly, whatever I tell you with respect to English pronunciation or the phonetic training technique, please think in terms of those adult learners, all right? I know that the material that I can share with you, you can adapt it to any other level, all right, or age. But my concern has always been with respect to adult English learners, okay? The problems that they go through, when they are learning a language. Mainly, in learning how to speak, all right? And sometimes they don't want to speak English because they know that they will make mistakes in pronunciation. We know that we have to consider many different aspects, such as grammar. Obviously, they need vocabulary to express. We always tell them from the very beginning, think in English, all right? But they don't have the words, I mean the words in English. I mean, from the very beginning, they are in first semester, first level, and we ask them to think in English, but we know that they still need those words, all right? But I will concentrate on pronunciation, all right? But first of all, I want to make you aware, of the importance of considering pronunciation, all right, as an important aspect in learning or teaching English. But before that, okay, as a warm-up, okay, I want to give, well, 7 or 8 people. I want to ask you to take a look at these words. Go ahead, have a seat. Okay, this is for you. Please don't look up the pronunciation of these words. Maybe you know some of them already, okay? If you do, great. So I want to ask you to please tell me what the pronunciation of those words are, okay? Here you are. This is for you. Don't turn around. Okay, this is for you. All right. And I want you to show the word to the rest of the students. Go ahead. Come in. Okay, no cell phones, all right? Please. Okay, let's start right here. Who's got? Okay, please show the word to the rest of the students. Let's say you are students right now. Imagine you are students, and please, what the pronunciation for that word is? Surface. All right. Surface. Look, please, I don't want you to feel bad. The idea here, is to learn how to improve our English pronunciation. I'm not a native speaker of English. It's obvious, all right? Okay, but the idea, here is to try to improve our pronunciation, to have an intelligible pronunciation, native-like. Why not? If you really work hard on this aspect of language, why not? I mean, to get a very excellent pronunciation, all right? But the idea, is not to make mistakes in pronouncing words like silla and to say chair. If you want to say chair, it's okay, people will understand. But we still, have an accent when we are saying chair. But if we try to improve, the pronunciation of words in English by being aware of how and where sounds are articulated, obviously our words will sound better. All right? So, surface. Is that okay? Surface? Surface. All right? Yeah, the correct pronunciation would be surface. I know that our students would feel bad, would feel frustrated, if we correct them, Yeah, remember, I told you, we are students right now, okay? I know most of us, we are English teachers, but we have to always think in terms of what the students feel, whenever they are in the classroom, and we as teachers ask them to speak English, but sometimes they don't know how to pronounce those words, and that's why they are afraid of speaking. All right? So please, don't get me wrong. Take it easy. Okay, the next one? Who's got the next one? Okay. Show the word.
Prayer.
Prayer or? Prayer. Prayer would be prayer. All right, I'm going to show you some sites where we can see the real pronunciation of words. Okay, that's what I want to share with you in these 7 steps. It's a lot of information, all right? In fact, I'm going to ask you to write your email so that I can send you what I have been working with, in teaching pronunciation or phonetics. I know that, I believe phonetics, it's the phonetic training technique. We have phonetic courses, and they take a long time, for us to deal with those different aspects in learning through phonetics. But our concern, it's pronunciation. I know we don't want our students to become phoneticians, all right? The idea, is to give them some strategies, some tools for them to find on their own, what the pronunciation of a word, is, all right? Okay, so prayer. The next word?
Sword.
Again?
Sword.
Sword. Espada? Sword. All right, sword. Go ahead. Okay. The next one? Again? Corpse. Pronunciation, corpse?
No, it's
Core. Score. All right. I know. Look, what is the problem right now? It's that these are not very common words. All right. And we are English teachers, and they are not even common words for us. Why? Because we don't use them frequently. Those words that's why I chose those words. In fact, there's a poem which is called the Chaos Poem. All right. I'm going to show it to you in a while, and I chose the most difficult words, the words that I know that most of us would make mistakes in. All right. The next word. Ballet. 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 All right, ballet. No problem.
Preface, teacher.
Okay. Preface? Preface? Preface. Preface. No problem. Okay. Any other word?
Gone well.
Gone well? Gunnel. Gunnel. All right. No problem. I did it on purpose. I chose. Some of them are common words like surface, preface, any other? Sword. Yeah, but obviously, if we listen to those words being pronounced from someone else, even if they are English teachers, we are not. Most of us, I guess, we are not native speakers of English. All right, and that's why my concern, as I told you, has always been in helping those adult English learners to learn English the best we can in terms of grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, spelling, because those 4 aspects, they are part of the linguistic component. All right? We know that in learning English, we have different objectives. Students, they have different purposes, objectives. Some of them, they just want to learn English for traveling. But some other people, they might be interested in learning English because they want to study a master's. So we have to always take into account, we always have to consider, what the objective is. Because if our students want to study, English formally for studying a master's or a PhD out of the country, or to go to take a course somewhere else around the world, all right? Obviously, they have to develop communicative competence, and not only everyday speech, all right? Spontaneous words or vocabulary. We need to develop communicative competence. I'm going to use initials, all right, because we have not enough time. Communicative competence, and this concept involves some other components, which are the linguistic competence, all right, and the aspects in developing the linguistic competence, which is one of the most important competences in learning a language, the linguistic one, because it deals with pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and spelling. So all of these different aspects interrelated. It's the language itself. But we have learned that in learning a language, it's not only learning pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, spelling. We also have to learn sociolinguistic aspects. We have to learn about the culture of that language we are learning. All right, but in this case, I'm not going to deal with the other ones. All right, but for you to become competent communicatively speaking, we also need to develop the sociolinguistic component. All right, discourse competence, all right, discourse analysis. The ones who majored in translation or language sciences, all right, you have developed these different components through the courses that you have taken, okay? And also the pragmatic competence, all right, so that we can understand what students or what people are saying, even if we use the same words in our, the ones that we would use in Spanish, if we just translate those words literally, and we think, oh, it's okay, you know, the way I am translating this sentence, you say it to someone else, to a native speaker, they might not get the same idea, all right? Because obviously in their context, you know, it will be understood in a different way, all right? So, the linguistic competence is one of the most important competences in developing communicative competence. So, pronunciation is the one I'm going to concentrate on, all right? Okay, so remember, I told you, think in terms of adult English learners, okay? These are 7 steps to teaching English pronunciation, the phonetic training technique. There are different techniques, in fact, you know, for learning pronunciation. But for me, you know, this is the one that works better because we make, first, teachers aware of what they need to know so that they can transmit that knowledge to their students. If, as teachers, we are not aware, we are not conscious, let's say, of what I need to teach, how am I going to teach it, to transmit it? You know, for example, yesterday, you know, a guy, you know, was at school and he said, hey, Tony, you know, I have, you know, some engineers, and I respect, you know, that. I know that there might be some people, you know, who majored in a different field, and they might still be good English teachers, all right? I'm not generalizing, but as an English teacher, you know, we are English teachers because we have been prepared, you know, to teach a foreign language. And speaking English is not the only thing, you know, we need to know how to transmit it. We need to know about the language, all right? And that's communicative competence, knowledge about the language. So if you have to have knowledge about the language, you have to have knowledge in this aspect, all right, in pronunciation. That's why, as I told you, the phonetic training technique is the one that I chose, that I selected, you know, for sharing with you this material, let's say. Because there are some other techniques like minimal pairs, but for me, you know, those techniques, they are just like, let's say, activities. They call them techniques. But if I just show you the difference between sit and sit, I know that you can see that there's a difference if I say sit and sit. That in the first word, the sound is longer or tense, let's say, E. And in the other one is short or lax, E. Sit and sit. But I'm not telling you anything, I'm just telling you that there's a difference. But if I explain to you, all right, how and where sounds are produced, okay, obviously, you know, you will be visualizing what is really happening, all right? So the first step in teaching pronunciation or making our students, making our students aware on what they have to do for them to learn English pronunciation on their own, okay, these are also the steps. Some people, you know, we know that they say that they can learn English on their own. Some of them, you know, they have been good learners, proactive learners, and they have reached their goal. But not all people, you know, go through the same experience. Some people need to be guided, all right, on how to do it. Okay, so the first step is that we have to share with our students, you know, the organs of speech. Okay, what for? I mean, so that they can know where and how to place the tongue, all right? For example, you know that in producing the th sound, as in through method, you have to place the tip of the tongue between the teeth, all right? That's why, this is the first step, you need to know about the organs of speech and the most important articulator, which is the tongue, so that you can tell our students where and how to produce those sounds, okay? Remember, I'm going to share this with you in the presentation, and also you know, the whole, you know, phonetic training technique, the way I developed it. And I have been using that with my students, and it has worked. Look, in fact, being honest, I developed, you know, I did this in around 2000. But why did I do it those days, because I realized that pronunciation was not being considered. I mean, there was a debate, a controversy in teaching grammar or not. Well, imagine pronunciation was not considered. And nowadays, I have realized that the communicative approach, we have realized that the communicative approach has started, let's say, to consider pronunciation as an important aspect. We know that it's important, but it has never been taught explicitly, let's say. We think that students will deduce, that they will infer what the pronunciation of a word is just by listening to their teachers. But what about if, as teachers, we might make mistakes in pronouncing some words that we are teaching them? Obviously, they will acquire them the way you say them. I'm not generalizing, but we know, and we have experienced that there are some people, who are English teachers, in our state. They said, hey, English for everybody. And there are some people, who are teaching in kindergarten, in elementary school, and they are not necessarily English teachers. So we need to help them, all right, to develop, the English as a foreign language the best they can, so that they can transmit those words or those phrases or sentences or English they are going to teach kids, so that they can develop good habits from the very beginning. All right. As I said, I'm not generalizing, but we know that some people, if as teachers they did not consider this aspect, obviously it will be obvious in the way they will be pronouncing some words. But there's a solution. All right. What is the solution? Okay. Well, why not taking courses on phonetics? All right. So that as a teacher, get to be aware of what you have to do. Okay. So I said, I'm going to just share, the 7 steps, but I'm not going to start to be dealing, with each aspect necessarily. Okay. But this is something that you need to consider first. Okay. For example, how do you pronounce, let's say, this word? And I'm going to ask. I'm going to choose people, at random. Okay. Remember, you are students right now. Okay. And for example, the word, let's say, all right, how do you pronounce this word? Method. Okay, great. Is that okay? Method. Okay. How do you pronounce this word? Goal. Goal is this way. This is goal. What about this one? It's a word that maybe we have never seen before. Okay, we are English teachers, but we are not walking dictionaries. All right, remember that. I'm right here with you, but it doesn't mean that I know all of the words. Okay, being honest, I don't know all of the words. But obviously, the more we read, the more we know. Okay, so what do you have to do? Whenever you have a doubt with respect to, what should I do here? I want to. Yeah, but window. Please comment and tell me. Okay. And D. Letter D. Yeah. Okay, yeah, right here. Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Look, there are different, there are some sites, that you can share with your students for them to continue learning about pronunciation. These are sites that I have shared with my students, in teaching phonetics. And as English teachers, we can also make use of these different sites, all right, for learning each sound individually. And you can listen to them. Nowadays, that's the great advantage we have, okay? When I began teaching phonetics, I had to ask for magazines, newspapers, so that I could make the class a little bit more entertaining, more attractive, dynamic. You know what students expect from us. They want the class to be fun, entertaining. Yeah, entertaining in this aspect, that it should be interesting, all right, for them to learn something new, not necessarily to be playing all the time. Okay? So this is a site, that you can use to listen to each sound of English individually. Can you see from there? Yes. All right. And there's one more site, that I want to share with you. www.upodn.com. All right, right here, if you type, for example, the word, okay, the one I asked for. Okay, right there. GAOL, okay. Choose IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, all right, because this is usually the one most teachers or dictionaries work with. There are different phonetic systems, all right, but this is the one, that we have been working with, and this is the one that most, let's say, dictionaries, sites use, the IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet. So you transcribe it, and what happened? There's a mistake right here. It's supposed to. It is supposed to be this way. I don't know what happened, but this is the pronunciation. These are symbols, all right, phonetic symbols, all right, that we need to learn. You might say, oh, why do we have to learn that? I mean, if we learn grammar, I mean, we all know what a verb is, what a noun is, and we know that our students, when we're teaching them English, all right, sometimes they don't understand those terms, not even in Spanish, all right. They know Spanish, they speak Spanish because obviously they were born here, all right. It doesn't mean that they have developed communicative competence in this sense, all right. Communicative competence in terms of knowing about the language, all right. That's what I mean. I know that they are competent because they are communicating. But what I mean by communicative competence is knowledge about the language, all right? Linguistically, sociolinguistically, etc. All right? So this side, I don't know what really happened right there, but I'm going to find it out in a while. But this side, is supposed to give you the transcription, the phonetic transcription. I have to call the author to find out what happened. Okay, one more site, this one, www.dictionary.com. All right, let me see if this one works. Okay, look. Yeah, this is the one, but yeah, this is the one, yes. But it says, I don't know what really happened, but it says IPA. IPA, and you click on IPA, and you will get the symbols that I'm using, in the material that I want to share with you, okay? And you click on this icon, and you can listen to the pronunciation of the word. That's the great advantage. I mean, we know that you might say, yeah, but I mean, what for do I need to learn those symbols if I can just click on that speaker, that icon, and listen to the pronunciation of the word? Yeah, but if you don't know exactly where and how to place the tongue, let's say, to say the word, our students, they might try to imitate the word, and instead of saying jail, como cárcel, jail, they might say Yale. And you know that Yale, like Yale University, Yale, it's a different word. All right? Yeah. I agree, right, with some of you who might say that if they can, I mean, nowadays our students, they have much more access to the net, I mean, to songs, videos, whatever, right, so where they can listen to English being pronounced. But we all know that not all of the students are auditive. We have to wait, for the teacher to get to school to ask him or her how a word was pronounced, what the pronunciation of a word was. But nowadays, we have a great advantage for our learners.
Very common in the state, the students in pronunciation when they are small, when they are not a star or a school.
Uh-huh.
Like
yes.
close your mouth.
Right, yeah, because in Spanish, we don't have words that start with s. Yeah, there are some borrowed words like standard, people say standard, but we know that's a borrowed word, right? You're right. So we have to correct, those mistakes by telling them exactly how to pronounce those words. Okay? Look, as I told you, I have always been interested in pronunciation, all right, in teaching pronunciation to teachers, future teachers, let's say, future English teachers, and students. And nowadays, I know that we have access to the net, and as young English teachers, you are young English teachers, all of you. So nowadays you have access to the net, and you can have better ideas on how to teach pronunciation, let's say dynamically, or for our students to be really interested, because I believe they are, speaking of young learners this time, all right, if I just come to the classroom and I just show material and no educational technology, let's say, all right, they might get bored, they might not get to be interested. So as young teachers, this is the next step for you, all right, to find better ways to teach this aspect of language. But even if we have the technology nowadays, or a lot of sites or movies or whatever, first of all, as English teachers, we need to develop this aspect of language. We need to be aware of where and how sounds are produced in English. Imagine if we were learning Chinese or Korean or any other language. Even if I'm teaching you right now about, or talking to you about this stuff, as a Chinese student, I will need someone to explain to me about how sounds are produced in Chinese. I have a great advantage that I know about this stuff through English. I did it, when I was learning French. The French teacher, my French teacher, he didn't deal with this aspect, so I had to do it on my own. Yeah, but it was French, the same alphabet, English, Spanish, the same alphabet, French, Spanish. Those languages that share the same language, okay, it might be easier for us to learn on our own about this aspect if we have already learned through one language. But if we start learning languages such as Chinese or Korean or Japanese or any other, I myself will need someone to guide me on where, how sounds are produced. Okay? So that's why I'm telling you, we need to be aware. All right? Now I should go back to presentation. First, organs of speech. Why do we have to teach organs of speech first? Because obviously all of these sounds, this is the vowel chart of consonants of English and Spanish. Why English and Spanish? Well, because if our students already know how to speak Spanish because they learned it since they were kids, even if they are not aware, if they don't know about their own language in terms of pronunciation or phonetics, okay, we can tell them, hey, look, for example, how do you say this word? How do you say this word?
Time.
Time. Okay, why didn't you say time? But we know that at the beginning, some students, they say time. What time is it? Why t-t-t? Because obviously they see this letter, obviously as in Spanish, they see the letter. It's the same letter we have in English and in Spanish. So they see the letter. They learn to pronounce this letter as t, time, and they say time. What time is it? We all have heard that from the very beginning. All right. So we need to tell them where exactly the sound should be produced in English, and that's why we need that chart. The organs of speech, the one before. All right. So that you can tell them, hey, in English you have to place the tip of the tongue right here on the alveolar ridge. I know, but why do we have to teach them those terms, those words? It's just for a while. It doesn't mean that they will become phoneticians, all right? Just for them to visualize what they have to do. It's time and not here in Spanish is time. Sorry, I mean, they would say time. All right? Like tiempo, tiempo, time, time. So they transfer the th sound in tiempo, time. But if you make them aware, hey, there's a difference. In Spanish, you do it right here, but in English, it's right there. That's why we need to know about the organs of speech so that we can tell them about the difference there is between English and Spanish. Okay? So I told you, this is in general terms, all right? Obviously, as I told you, we need to take, a course on phonetics, on pronunciation, so that we can practice, through activities as English teachers, and be able to transmit this to our students later, and not exactly this way. Look, as I said, you might say, but why do we have to teach students those terms such as vowel chart or organs of speech or unrounded, rounded? It doesn't mean that they have to memorize all this stuff for an exam. At the end, we want to find out if they are really pronouncing the words we are teaching them. At the end, the words, all right, correctly. They will start, making association. That's a term, we use in phonetics, association. For example, how do you pronounce this word? We all know how to pronounce that word. How do you pronounce it? Ball. Okay, we know it's ball. All right, and you know that if you change this letter C for any other, well, okay, students, they got the idea. Okay, it's ball. Then what about this one? Call. And then I don't know, this. No, sorry. Yes, C. Okay, this. Tall, and so on. Association. So, with one word, you told them where and how to pronounce those sounds in that word. You gave them as an example. But then you tell them, hey, make association. It works in English. To make association, it works. But always tell them that there are exceptions. We know there are exceptions in pronouncing, some words. Like, for example, can you tell me of a word with al but not pronounced as all? Can you think of a word? Okay, right? Was that one? Yeah, great. Yes. Yeah, that would be an exception. Not shall, but shall. All right? But association works. It works, okay? So, in English, we have, or in Spanish, or any other language, we have what we call scientific concepts and spontaneous concepts. Okay? Linguists, they say that for students, to learn scientific concepts in any field, okay, we need to make use of what they know, what they acquired spontaneously. What do I mean by that? Common words that they already know. All right? If I want to, for example, in mathematics, students, they have to learn las tablas, all right? Dos por una, dos, y muchas veces las aprenden de cancioncita, como decimos. I hope this is not happening anymore. Because the idea, is to teach consciously. That's my objective, all right? We don't have to memorize things anymore. I know memorization, it works. Yeah, in fact, memorization is a strategy in learning, but it's not the only one. The problem is that if we only try to make students memorize things, all right? So in mathematics, for example, in learning las tablas, okay, dos por una, dos por dos, cuatro, okay? If you tell the students, hey, why dos por una, dos por dos son cuatro? Tienes dos manzanas aquí, tienes otras dos, las sumas, ¿y cuántas son? O sea, dos lo sumas estas veces. Dos por dos, dos aquí, dos acá, las sumas, ¿cuántas son? Cuatro. But you're making them aware, let's say, through spontaneous concepts. Dos manzanas, dos manzanitas. Okay? But we know that they are learning las tablas. Okay? So in learning scientific concepts, in English, scientific concepts or phonetic terms like these ones, it doesn't mean that they will become, as I told you, phoneticians, but they need to know, what they are so that they can understand what they have to do. I mean, the objective. And what is the objective? Pronouncing words correctly, the best they can. All right? Go ahead. Okay, now the next step. The next step, by making use of charts, teachers explain to their students the deformation of diphthongs of the two languages. Obviously, we have Spanish. How many diphthongs do we have in Spanish? They are 14 diphthongs, all right? This is what I do. I always tell students, why do I make use of Spanish, all right, in teaching, phonetics in English? Because first I want to find out what students know about their own language, even if they don't know those scientific concepts or those terms, phonetic terms. Okay, I tell them, okay, we have 14 diphthongs. Okay, one example that I have always been using, many of you have not been my students, but this is the one that I use for you to realize of the importance of being aware of what we are teaching or learning. The ones who were my students, please don't say, okay, don't say the answer.
Don't spoil it.
Okay, tell me, this word, does it bear a stress mark? Stress mark? ¿Lleva acento?
Yeah.
Where? First one. Here? Okay. Word division. Everybody. 1, 2, 3. A, E. Okay. A, E. This is the way we learned it since we were in elementary school, right? Is it aguda, grave, esdrújula, or sobredrújula? Grave. Ok, a ver, vamos a ver. Casa. Me suena igual. Aéreo, casa. Entonces, ¿lleva acento? No. Casa, ¿es it grave o aguda? Grave. ¿Y por qué no lleva acento? Why not? Y aquí también es vocal. This is a vowel too. But this is a vowel too. Oh, they are vowels. The problem is that we have always been taught that it's aéreo. No, it's aéreo. 1, 2, 3. That's why it bears stress mark. This is esdrújula. All right? But what happened? That, as I told you, memorization. And if our teachers did not teach the rule consciously, let's say, or maybe, the teacher that taught these words to us those days, they were taught that way too, and they are transmitting that knowledge they acquired. But if we stop for a while and start reflecting on the rule, let's say, I know they are rules, and students, they hate rules. But if we find, a way, a fun way, entertaining way, to make them aware of what they need to know so that they can do it the right way, all right, they will enjoy it. But we need to sometimes work with rules, even if we don't like them, okay? That's what I mean by being aware, all right? Aéreo, aéreo, esa es drújula. Si no también casa llevaría acento. Okay? All right. So I shadow, these ones because they are the ones that we have in English. I, ow, oi. But in English, I, ow, oi. So we say time and not time. We say owl or owl and not owl. We say toy and not toy, my toy. All right, that's what we try to avoid. We try to avoid students transferring sounds of Spanish into English. So that's why make them aware. People say that we need to teach based on what students already know. And when they are learning a foreign language, what is it then that they already know? They already know how to speak Spanish in this case. They already know. They speak Spanish, but they don't know about Spanish. That's the problem. That's why we say, I want to teach them grammar, but they don't even know the verb, what a verb is in Spanish. Imagine, in terms of phonetics, forget it. Well, let's make them aware, just for a while. All right, so that they can get the idea at the end, how to say the sound. And later, they will forget about those terms. I mean, they will just start speaking the language, but better, grammatically, phonetically, lexically, etc. Okay? The next step, okay. Contrast the phonemic chart of consonants of English and Spanish. Phonemic chart. Consonants. The ones before they were vowels. Now they are consonants. And these are the symbols that you will see on the sounds of American English. You know, the one that I show you here. I have learned, you see, consciously, because you taught me. All right? But what's the difference? That they already know how to speak English because they were born in the United States. They speak English. All right? They know how to say the sounds. In our case, our students, they don't know how to say those sounds. All right? They know Spanish, and when they try to learn English, they will use what they already know. All right? In quotes. That's why they make use of Spanish sounds. And our job, you know, as teachers is to try to make them aware not to make use of those sounds when speaking English. Why? Because, you know, people will make fun. We have seen different videos, you know, governors, presidents, etc., and people make fun, you know, because look at the way, you know, he pronounces English. I mean, his accent is terrible. Yeah, maybe those governors or presidents or whatever, whoever, they were not taught consciously. All right, they just learned English those days because English pronunciation was not considered. But nowadays, as I said, the communicative approach is considering this aspect as it's an important aspect. We all know that. But we should teach it consciously. Okay, so this site is a great site for you to practice on your own. All right, what I'm sharing with you right here. Point of articulation, manner of articulation. All right, you can see all of these sounds, obviously in English. There's one site similar to the one in English, the sounds of American English, for Spanish too. So you can also contrast the way they say it, the way they say it in Spanish and the way they say the sound in English. Okay, there's the sounds of American English. Okay, English, and there's also one more for Spanish. Okay. So you can teach students sounds through point of articulation, where, like the tip of the tongue between the teeth, like zapato, through, thanks, or manner of articulation, how, all right, with no vibration, all right, no vibration of the vocal cords, all right. I mean, there's no obstacle. There's obstacle, but it's partial. The air is coming out anyway, and through vibration. That's the other one I wanted to talk about. No vibration of the vocal cords. If I say zzz, vibration of the, so you can learn these sounds, consonant sounds, through the sounds of American English. That site I showed you before, through manner of articulation, point of articulation, or through vibration. Okay. Next step. One more chart. You might say, oh, I hope you will not get frustrated, just by taking a look at all this. This is the contrasting phonetic chart. The other one was phonemic. So phonemic chart or phonemes, they help, they help students to improve their pronunciation. If you don't want to get too deep into teaching phonetics, all right, or pronunciation this way. As teachers, we need to know all this stuff. We really need to know what the pronunciation of a sound is in contrast with our own language, so that we can tell our students where and how to produce the sound. If you don't want to get into, too deeply, all right, in teaching pronunciation. But if you teach pronunciation through phonemes, it's okay. This is much better because it's deeper. All right. Do we have the z sound in Spanish? Not my students. Do we have the z sound in Spanish? Z in Spanish? Z? Maybe, okay, we are not aware. As I told you, awareness is the key, all right, for me. All right, say this word. How do you say this word in, can I erase this stuff? Thanks. How do you say this word in Spanish? And these are examples that I have been using because they help, all right, to make people aware. How do you say this word in Spanish? Mismo. So we do have the z sound in Spanish, but we were not aware. We were not aware. Why? Because we learned Spanish unconsciously. All right? Now you know that there's a Z sound in Spanish. So if we can do it in Spanish, so our students will have no problem in saying zoo, zebra, zero, because they can do it in Spanish. Mismo, desde. All right? There it is. Okay. These are allophones. Phonemes, that's the first step. Allophones is deeper, let's say. Okay, they are variations of phonemes. And why do we need to know about allophones too? Why? Because students, they need to know that, for example, how do you say this word? Stop, stop. And how do you say this word? Top. The T sound, the way you say the T sound here and the T sound here, it's different. This is with aspiration. T. First of all, place. T. Alveolar ridge. Arribita la encía superior. Puente alveolo. T, t, t. Top. Top. Not top. Then, stop. No aspiration. Similar to Spanish, but still alveolar. Stop, top. Stop, top. And then at the end, how do you say this word? So you can say cat. In a dictation, cat. Or cat. Or my cat. All right? It just takes the position. Alveolar. My cat. And still okay. So those are allophones. Those are variations of the ones before. Okay? And one more step, dealing with stress. Stress is also important because it conveys meaning. All right? How would you translate if I say, Peter has two boyfriends and Linda has only one? What's the translation? Peter has two boyfriends. So stress conveys meaning. We need to deal with sounds, vowels, diphthongs, consonants, because the sound makes a difference. If I say cut, if I say cat, if I say top, if I say tap, I hope that's a word. Okay? It makes a difference. If I say boyfriends, if I say boyfriends, they are different words. Girlfriend, girlfriend. Greenhouse, greenhouse. Desert and dessert. So that's the next step. We need to also work with stress so that students use the right words for them not to get into trouble. All right, in making use of those words in speaking English. That's just one example. Obviously, in Spanish, agudas, graves, esdrújulas, sorbes, drújulas. Why? We know that in Spanish we have that division, that classification, let's say. But in English, what happens? You see, in Spanish, aéreo. We have to be really aware of the rule so that we can show that knowledge in writing. All right? Si lleva acento, it bears stress mark on letter E, the first one, aéreo. But you told me about the rule. But if the rule was not taught okay, you might still make a mistake later in some of the words, all right, where you were supposed to write stress mark. Okay? So in English, we have primary stress, mid stress, weak stress. These are the only ones that we teach for words. Okay? And this is very important because, as I told you, in Spanish, it's only one. How do you say this word en español? Sorry. Fundamental. Y vendría siendo aguda. Right? Fundamental. In English, how do you say it? Which is the strongest? Man, right here. Fundamental. But there's still one more. Fun. All right? And the rest, they are weak. Well, I tell my students, usually when there's a weak stress, there's a schwa sound, which is a very common sound, like We don't have that sound in Spanish. You know that already. Fundamental. All right? So that is, when students are learning words such as table, adult learners. Table, what do they say? table. Why? Oh, why? Because if they don't know about the schwa sound, if they don't know about the sound, what is the closest sound in Spanish? Oh. That way, buzz, boss, boss. Table, table. And so on, all right? So, in teaching, in dealing with stress, students will be aware that usually when these syllables are under weak stress, there's a schwa sound there. And this is a very common sound in English, this one. The schwa sound. It comes from the Hebrew language. Okay? Self-motion, you see, 1996. I know it's pretty old. But that's why I'm telling you, nowadays you have much more access to the net, a lot of activities available. There are videos, that you can look for with respect to pronunciation, stress, songs, whatever. All right, so that you can teach these aspects of language in an entertaining way, in a fun way. All right, and look, still, even now, dictionaries make use of capitals, bold, dots, let's say, to show what the strongest syllable is in a word. These are different ways, for you to show students what the strongest syllable is in a word. All right? Or some dictionaries, well, obviously dictionaries, they will use this. All right? And the one I showed you before, sorry, this one, let's see, that's dictionary.com. Let me type a longer word. The one I show you there. Fundamental. I don't know what is happening. Yeah, this one. Yeah, but the fact is that I don't know what is really happening, but they are supposed to show here IPA, and IPA, shows. In the IPA transcription, you can see the stress marks. You can see the stress marks so that students can find out what the strongest syllable is and pronounce the word the right way in terms of sounds and stress. Okay? I need to talk to the author of this site. Okay. One more. And the last step. What time is it? Am I still on time?
Yeah.
What time is this hour? 5:35. Okay. Okay. Look. So the next step is teachers explain to their students the way intonation works in their native and target language. Intonation. That's one more aspect we have to deal with. As I said, you can take a phonetics course, all right, somewhere, phonetics and phonology, but believe me, if you understand, what I'm sharing with you right now as English teachers, you're English teachers, all right, and you know what you have to do, to keep on learning for improving, our own knowledge of English, so that we can transmit it to our students in a different way, maybe not exactly this way if you don't want to, all right? But trying to find better ways or easier ways for them to really get to be interested. As I said, I would like, students, to really care about learning, through scientific concepts. In any field, we all, chemists or engineers, mathematicians, they have learned, through scientific concepts. All right? So why not in learning a foreign language, why not to learn, through those terms, just for a while? I have told students, it's similar to learning, how to drive a car. At the beginning, you have to learn, what the gears are for and what those pedals are for. Standard, not automatic. Now automatic is, it's easier. All right, but you have to learn, what they are for, so that once you combine, the pedals, with these gears, that you will start moving the car, and later you have to concentrate on something else, respecting the traffic lights, like we do here in Monterrey. All right, okay. But for a while, as I said, you have to be aware of what you have to do. So in learning English, same thing. I mean, why not to be aware of what I need to know, so that I can understand how the language works. All right, and not necessarily to try to make our students learn the language the same way we acquired Spanish. When they are kids, I understand. We know the critical period, that they can still learn 2 or 3 different languages. But I told you, think in terms of our adult learners, because we try to teach them the same way. Hey, talk to them completely in English. I understand, okay? I know that they are tape recording or video recording, but we also need to consider our learners, all right? Their needs. They were talking about considering our students' needs, all right? Their purpose, their objective, for learning a language. So intonation. Intonation also conveys meaning. An example, that I have always used. If I say, we ate in Chicago, where? We ate in Chicago, where? The word where. What do you understand by where? Where? We ate in Chicago. Where? What do you understand? What is the meaning just by listening to that intonation? Where? The city. Or means, can you repeat? Where? Or we ate in Chicago. Where? The place. In which restaurant? All right? So, sounds, stress, intonation. All right? They are important aspects in learning a language because obviously they convey meaning. All right? This example, let's see. Yes, desert in a word, yes, in words. But this is for sentences. For sentences. For example, do you speak English? All right. In teaching intonation, some people, they use an arrow to show, the intonation. Because as I said, in the books, the books that we use for teaching English, there's a section right for pronunciation always. I wonder if most teachers really deal with, okay, let's listen to the sound. This sound is the schwa sound, or listen to it, skip it, and let's continue, with the next page. Yeah, obviously, if we are not aware, if we don't know about that sound, yeah, listen to it and please don't ask about what the sound is or how. I'm not generalizing, but sometimes, that's what some teachers do. If I don't know about that aspect of language, all right, I know how to speak English because I learned it very well, etc. Grammar, I'm sure that all of us, whenever students ask for something about grammar, we all have an answer usually. All right, teacher, why do, does, what's the difference? Does for he, she, do for are, you, we, they. And, okay, we always have an answer real fast. But what about, teacher, but why or why not the? So we also need to be prepared, for giving an answer. All right. According to some linguists, okay, or authors, español, eres americano, la entonación es un poco más baja, más estable. So, some authors, they use numbers, or you can use arrows to show, when the intonation rises and then when it falls. Right, thank you. But you can always change, or you can always emphasize any word. If I ask you, hey, do you speak English? I'm asking you for this language. You say yes or not. Or no, I speak French. All right? But what about if I if this number 3, or if I emphasize this word. Imagine that I need, someone for teleperformance, or, those places where you need to answer phone calls, right? And what would be the question this way if you emphasize this one? Do you speak English? All right? And a student might say, I understand. I understand very well, yeah, I understand. I can read, but I have problems to pronounce, or, okay? No, sorry, I need people to speak because you need to answer phone calls from the United States or England, blah, blah, or from China. Chinese speaking English. All right. And now, right here, what would be the question this way? Do you speak English? Not me. My father does, my mother does, my brothers do, etc. So you can always emphasize any other word, okay, to transmit a different meaning, a different message, right? Okay? Look, as I told you, being honest, there's no excuse to say I cannot teach pronunciation. Those days, I had to make my own. Remember, well, I was born a long time ago, okay? And no internet, so I had to make up my own games, for teaching pronunciation. Look, just listen to the games. Vowel bingo, la lotería, la lotería, vowels. Tic-tac-toe, all right? ¿Quién no jugó al tic-tac-toe, el cross? Bueno, y ahí pongo los sonidos y que me diga una palabra, a ver si dices, está correcto, si puedes señalar. Up and out, the one that is different on a list of words, the up and out, the one that is different. Letter soup, sopa de letras. Hot potato, la papa caliente. So I in those days, I used to, students, they sat in a circle, or they were standing on a circle. And when I said, hey, hot potato, okay, they had to stop. Who's got the potato, let's say? And he or she had to say a word with the sound, that I wrote on the board, or the one that I show. Okay, this is the sound, say a word. So I had to be, for students, to have fun, or to get to be interested in learning, because it was an English course. It was not necessarily phonetics, all right? I had to make up my own games. But nowadays, you can look up for sites, all right, where they can keep on practicing outside of the classroom. You can guide them, always in the classroom. But, to be playing all the time in the classroom, no. They are coming here to learn, to be aware of what they need to know. But always share some strategies, some techniques, sites, all right, for them to keep on learning, all right? Those images, I know, a long time ago, but you have access to the net. As students, they have computers. I know, I'm generalizing, because if we go to a rural area, okay, they might not have access to the net, but you can always play hot potato or vowel bingo or whatever, all right, for them. Or a pocket dictionary. If they have no access in that area, they have no access to the net, you can always guide them on how to understand those symbols on a dictionary, so that whenever they have a doubt with respect to a word, they see the transcription. For one reason or another, the transcription is there. Because even if they are native speakers of English, I ask, about the word jail. I ask Americans, hey, how do you pronounce that word? Gaol. They say same thing, and they were native speakers. But they didn't know, they had never seen that word before. They had never used that word before. So I asked them, and what do you do whenever you have a doubt with respect to a word? I always wait for someone else to say the word. And what about if that someone else made a mistake? I don't care. I don't care. But imagine, if our students, they are learning a foreign language, and if they just, I don't care, if I say tomorrow, we have to go to school, it is very important. Yeah, but if we can correct, that way of pronouncing words through awareness, why not? Okay? Thank you very much. All right? Okay, look, as I told you, what I wanted to do was just to share those 7 steps. I know that for dealing with each step, it takes about 4 weeks. Not for the organs of speech, but for vowels, about 2 or 3 weeks to deal with vowels and then consonants. The ones that have taken phonetics and phonology with me, you know what I'm talking about. But as English teacher, I would like you to, reflect, on this aspect of language. Do you have any question, any question, any doubt, any comment, or any experience that you have had with respect to dealing with this aspect of language? Have you ever, have you had, problems in terms of your students asking you about questions they have with respect to pronunciation, or students not wanting to speak because they might make mistakes in pronunciation?
Yeah, of course.
Always? So?
I encourage them to create their own phonetic alphabet using the Spanish alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for example, the one you were mentioning, table.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of teachers use, table.
Uh-huh, yes.
But what I do to encourage them not to use the O, it's just right at the end BL.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do the ball.
Uh-huh.
Do the bull.
Okay.
Table.
But you tell them, all right? Okay.
Yes. And
Yeah.
of course, I do explain to them some
Where, how.
the teeth, look at it, exaggerate, open your mouth, bite your tongue. And sometimes they do it. Sometimes they're like, they don't want to, but I do it with them.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Slowly together.
I know that we can, for teaching, those sounds, we can make use of, as I said, spontaneous concepts or any other thing that could help us to make students aware. Aware in these terms, not necessarily through these symbols, but hey, the schwa sound, I always tell them, it's like similar to when you cough. Not the effort, but the sound, buzz. Okay, not buzz, not buzz. Or if you have been hit on your stomach, that sound. All right, similar to the schwa sound, and say cut and not caught. Yeah, we can make use of those techniques, mainly, in dealing with kids. Kids, they can always imitate. They are still in that critical period that they can get to learn a language unconsciously, let's say. But as I told you, our adult learners, okay, always think in terms of our adult learners too, because they go through bad experience, whenever they are learning a language. And if we ask them to speak in front of the others and they start making mistakes, the other ones start laughing and they will get frustrated. But if you always tell them, hey, look, there's material that you can always use to keep on learning, but make them aware. That's okay, the way you're teaching them?
For people, I'm going to read this.
Yeah.
Instituto Mexicano Norteamericano de Relaciones Culturales, a través de su División de Estudios Superiores, otorga la presente constancia al maestro Luis Antonio Balderas Ruiz por haber participado en el seminario para maestros de inglés en este internet.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's for you. Thanks.